Welcome back to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, brought to you as always by the Hockey Podcast Network. We are now joined by a very special guest to talk about Pens playoffs and the Stanley Cup playoffs, which are coming up here at the end of this week. Nick from Pens and Pucks is joining us. Yes, we understand that we have three Nicks on the show right now, but Nick, how's it going today?
Good, Nick. I'm doing awesome. Thank you for having me today, guys.
Yeah, me and Brlansky here are used to the three Nicks thing. He had a roommate freshman year of college that was also named Nick. So, yeah, we're used to this.
That's awesome.
Good stuff. We understand you're coming to us from Toronto. I just found that out right before we started recording. So how did you become a fan of the Pittsburgh Penguins initially? And then after you answer that, how initially did you get into podcasting about them?
All right. So first off, going way back to 1984, interesting story. My cousin, he got drafted the same year in the 1984 draft to the Washington Capitals. Never made the squad, but played in the AHL a little bit, whatnot. Played in the OHL. Was captain of the Toronto Marlies. And then after the draft, there he had said to me when I was a young kid, "Watch out for this guy Lemieux coming out of Montreal." So ever since then, I've been a big-time Mario Lemieux fan. Gold and black. I bleed gold and black. So, and then when it comes to podcasts, it just, my brother does a podcast, and, I've been coaching hockey here in Toronto for over 25 years, played high-level hockey here in Toronto. It's just a passion of mine. And, I've been watching you guys and other podcasts, and with this COVID year, I thought I'd jump on the bandwagon. And I love talking hockey. I love talking Penguins. So there you go.
Well, it's great that you've got that love for the team and started doing your own thing. It's a ton of fun doing stuff like this. But and since you've been a fan for a long time, you've seen the last 15 years of this team. We've made the playoffs each year, and it's an incredible stretch that people don't talk about enough. But what are some of your best and worst memories, from this 15-year stretch?
Well, I would say, again, the highlight of the 15 years was just getting to the Cup final in 2008. That was a great run. First off, Sidney Crosby getting drafted in 2005. I think I ran it up and down my street a couple of times just because it was pretty grim, the few years before that. And then, the 2009 Cup run was fantastic, winning in Game 7 in Detroit. The group came together as a team, and it was just a phenomenal run, and shutting them out. And Joe Louis was just fantastic. It was great. Talbot with those 2 goals, and then waiting a few years after that, the disappointments would be is between the 2009 Cup and the 2016 Cup would be the expectations were high for a few of those Penguins teams going into the playoffs, and unfortunately, if it was goaltending at some point or lack of scoring. Or just making a lot of changes right at the trade deadline and things didn't come together. The Jerome Galen trade, Brandon Morrow, those type of trades at the deadline sort of, got those teams, I think, off track. But then looking at 2016 and 2017, just great runs.
It was a great stretch for 15 years, and now the Penguins are looking for, in that stretch, their 4th Stanley Cup. So let's start talking about the team that we have right now, the East Division champs, if you will. What do you think is the most important player, or we'll even say line, for this team heading into the playoffs right now?
Well, I think the most important player is number 87, our captain, for sure. Looking at the last few games and looking at April, it's been an up and down month. I really think that, that they were inconsistent through the April games. They gave up a lot of goals in some games, gave up some leads. But then looking at March, it was a fantastic month. Everything came together. Goaltending was solid. I do have some worry with, 71 Gino coming in the lineup and a few things in terms of how the line chemistry is going to work. But, overall, Sidney Crosby, I think Tristan Jarry's got to be stellar. Our goaltending has to be good. And the backhand has been solid all year. So hopefully Matheson comes back next week for the first game.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not beyond all that. It's his first time as the starter for the playoffs. It's his net now. How confident are you in Tristan Jarry to carry this load into what could be a deep playoff run. What do you see him doing this playoff?
Yeah, it's definitely a good question there, Nick. I'm sort of suspect. I was in the beginning of the year on the goaltending. I like both goalies. I think that Smith has done a great job being the backup. We've never seen Jari in this territory before, being number one going into the playoffs. High expectations. I think last year it would have been Jari's net going into the playoffs, but unfortunately, we had COVID hit us. He was on a high. He was voted to the All-Star game. I think this is going to be a test run. Can he do it? And this is going to be, if we're going to see if Jari can be a number one goalie in the NHL. He won the cup there with the Edmonton Oil Kings in the junior hockey league, so he knows how to play under pressure.
It's definitely going to be trial by fire for him when you look at it. Yes, he did get that game last year in the postseason in an elimination scenario with Montreal. You mentioned he played in the juniors like that, so it's a test run, but at the same time, it's one of the last great chances for Malkin and Crosby to go and win a cup. So yeah, get your feet wet and stuff like that, but there's an immense amount of pressure on there as well.
Yeah, I think, pressure is going to definitely hit him as soon as he gets in the pipes that first game. And, like you said, with Gino and Sid, how long is that window open for the Penguins? Everybody talks about it. You listen to all those sportcasters, where you guys are at, and the window is like 3 years supposedly. And, the question mark I have for you guys is what are your thoughts on Gino? Like, how is that going to affect the lineup? We've seen a couple of things lately. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it hurts he didn't get a goal since he came back. I think, it was good that he was able to pick up a couple assists and kind of regain some foot speed, but that was one thing I noticed, is that I at least wanted him to try and just crack the net at least once or twice to kind of give him some confidence going in, because now we have a long time off until the next game. It's hard whenever a guy like as heady as he is, he could have really used a big push like that mentally. So we'll see where that goes. I think he'll be okay, though. I think as long as him and Kapanen are able to keep up their chemistry, I don't see too many issues. But you just got to hope his confidence is up going further.
For
yeah,
me,
go ahead, Nick. Sorry. No, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
For me, with Evgeny Malkin, if you look at his total body of work, yes, he missed about 23 games this season. Even before then, he wasn't scoring goals, though. He had 8 goals on the season. People don't really talk about that enough. That's a very minuscule number for Evgeny Malkin. But the thing that I saw in those last 4 games that was encouraging was the fact that he was able to kind of unlock Jason Zucker a little bit, get Zucker a couple of goals, get his confidence going, because we know Kapanen's been able to finish this year. Zucker has been all over the place, almost scoring, but hasn't been able to put it away. Malkin can turn it on at a moment's notice. So as long as Malkin is unlocking both Zucker and Kapanen in the big games, I'm still confident that he can turn it on and put the big goal in the net.
I totally agree with you. I think having 71 in the lineup is a game changer. Right now you're looking at having Sid, Gino, and then you have Carter as a third line option center. That's pretty deep. You're going back to, 17 with, Sid, Gino, and Nick Bonino. So that's pretty solid. And you had that on the fourth line, Matt Cullen. And so you just replaced Cullen with with Bluger, and you're off to the races.
I think it's a recipe for success for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it has been throughout the Crosby era. It's strength down the middle, and that's what they have right now with that addition of Carter, as you mentioned, very perfectly. But the Pens power play is something else that has been really interesting this year, because for all of the woes that they've had in the long droughts, they're currently right now 5th in the NHL. Now the Penguins are done, but of course the rest of the NHL continues to play games due to COVID. But the Penguins right now sit 5th in the NHL, which is kind of a miracle. Unfortunately, their penalty kill is not that great. It is 26th in the league. How glaring is that penalty kill deficiency? And do you think that that's going to be a liability that could cost them in the playoffs?
It could. But again, you have, TANF, which is probably one of our number one best penalty killers in the league. That Bluger and TANF tandem has been phenomenal throughout the whole year. The interesting part about the penalty kill, me being in Toronto, Kapanen, here in Toronto was definitely on the penalty kill all the time, either the 1 or 2 unit. He is dangerous on the kill. He plays, with a long stick. He can get in the lanes. And he did score a number of shorthanded goals for the Leafs when he was with Toronto. So not sure why Sully hasn't tried him on the penalty kill, but I've been harping on this all season, gents, with the PK. When you look at most Stanley Cup winners, both special teams, the power play as well as the PK, are usually ranked in the top 10 or top 15 in the league going into the playoffs.
Yeah, the penalty kill is such an interesting thing because you mentioned Kapanen used to play on it. Meanwhile, whenever Gaudreau first started here, he was on it, and he had said in an interview that he hasn't played the penalty kill ever at the NHL level. So I guess we're trying things, and for a while it worked, but I think things really need to get going. I'm going to cut back to Malkin for a second. Do you think he helps or hurts the first power play unit, though?
Yeah, I think I was throwing a few pillows the other day when they were playing Buffalo on Saturday. I was screaming at the TV, shoot the puck. Because we know Penguin hockey, it's basically, pass around the perimeter, look for that special play, that perfect pass. I really like McCann on that side. I think he's got that shoot first mentality. He's got a zinger of a snapshot. He likes that low blocker side on tendies, and tendies have a hard time tracking that puck on the low blocker. Again, I think it's a big problem for Sullivan because that if Gino goes to that second unit, there might be some pouting, I would say.
There could be, but even if he stays on that first unit, we saw a couple of opportunities for that second unit with McCann drop back down, and they looked like they were not only just competent, but they looked dangerous there for a couple of games.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's that one play in Philly when the second unit went on, they scored a power play. I think, not sure who scored the goal, but they had that bumper in the middle and they worked the puck down low. They got it to that guy in the middle, and they, and always having a second unit. That's why if that second unit can produce, you have a really good chance for that PP to be strong throughout the playoffs.
Yeah. So judging by the last 2 years, we know how they were kind of a disappointment. Do you believe that this year's team is something different? Is there something special about it that can help them go all the way?
Well, I think this team is deeper. I think when you roll all 4 lines, everybody's contributing. Tanev comes back. Most likely you take Sevier out of the lineup, I would say, because, Gaudreau, Carter, and McCann are looking really solid as a third line. So then you have your Bluger line together, and I think if you can get those, the bottom 6 guys to produce, that's how you win Stanley Cup. So I think they're deeper this year than the last 2 years. I think they have a little bit of a swagger back than last year's team. That bubble hockey was sort of, guys weren't on the ice. It was hard to find ice, training and all that stuff. This year's a little different. They have, 50 plus games under their belt. Their legs are back. They've been practicing more, whatnot, training. I think this year's team has a definite, really, really good chance of getting out of the East. But there's one team that really scares me, and you guys probably know what team that is.
I mean, there's a couple of teams that scare me currently in the NHL, but who are you thinking of?
Well, in our division, it's Boston. I look at the 4 teams in the East that are going to compete for the Stanley Cup, and Tuukka Rask is the best goalie out of the 4 teams, hands down. So, you looking back at playoff success against the Bruins with the Penguins, it's been tough. I'm not saying 91, 92 because that was, different because we handled them pretty well. But, I remember I went to the Eastern Conference final game in Boston when the Penguins got shut out that game. I believe it was 2-0. I think it was the only Penguins fan in the barn at that time with a Penguins jersey. And a buddy of mine that we flew down with had a Bruins jersey on, and he was a big Bruins fan. But that was tough to swallow. For some reason, I don't know if it's in their heads, but Rask, when we play Boston, when Rask is in net, it just seems we can't crack the net.
And we had Josh Yohe on our last episode, and he said basically the same thing. He said, for some odd reason, the Bruins give the Penguins fits. Marchand gets under Letang, and Malkin and Bergeron and Crosby collide head-to-head, and it's the one kind of Rubik's Cube that Crosby hasn't solved in his career is Patrice Bergeron. He's found some success, but overwhelmingly, Bergeron has been able to kind of tame Sidney Crosby when Sullivan's goal has been the opposite all along, but it doesn't seem like it works out. So in that instance, again, you mentioned 71. Evgeny Malkin would be a huge factor if that ends up being the case. I mean, when we record this tonight, we could figure out who we're playing. And if it's not figured out tonight, it'll be figured out tomorrow. And if it's figured out tomorrow, it could be Boston. So it would be interesting, but it would definitely be a battle for sure.
Yeah, I think, when it comes to the Bruins, my frustration is, and again, a lot of people talk about this, is Sully matching Sid's line against Bergeron's line. I just don't get it. That line is better than Sid's line. Unfortunately, you look at the three players, Sid's better than Bergeron, but Marchand and Pasternak, they're elite players. Getzel will get there. Rust is to me, he's a top 6 winger, but he's not in that elite level like a Pasternak right now. So, going head to head is dangerous. We saw it in that 3-1 loss there the other night or 2 weeks ago. If those guys get points, the Penguins are in trouble. Them adding Hall to the mix, guys, too, is it gives them a decent second line with Krejci, Hall, and Smith on the other side. So now they're pretty, that 1-2 punch, they have that too as well. So it'll be interesting. Can like you said, Nick, can 71, if we do play the Bruins, beat the Krejci line now?
Yeah, that's a huge factor. Go ahead, Horwat.
Yeah, you're good. I didn't have much on it. I was going to say you just got to hope for the best on that. So, I mean, do you feel like the Bruins, because they added Hall, are they a deeper team now? I mean, I know it's just one sort of player, although they got someone else too. I forget who it was now. But they picked up that second player. Do you think the Bruins are a deeper team than, anyone's been saying? Because a lot of times people say they're just a one-line team.
Mm-hmm. I think now they're a 2-line team. And the one thing I give the Bruins every year, they make the playoffs. They play a really structured game. They're disciplined. They play well in the defensive zone. There's no drive-bys. The one thing with Pittsburgh is, and it was 71 in our own zone or in the Pittsburgh zone, there can't be drive-bys. You have to have stops and starts. You can't be circling that blue line or that red line cheating, especially against the Bruins. Got to get the pucks out first, and then the best defense creates the best offense, and you got to clean up our own zone. And guys, you saw in the Buffalo games here, there was some quality chances. Even like I say, the other night had to come up big with a few saves. I'm a little concerned. I'll tell you, the last few games have been sort of, I don't know, they haven't been tight. There's been some mistakes in the defensive zone.
It definitely seemed like they coasted into the playoffs following their clinching of the playoffs, even though there was something on the line. And they did go out there and they got the job done. But there's something that a lot of people pointed out. There's definitely mistakes that were made that can't be made once game 1 rolls around for sure.
Yeah. Who do you guys think that, besides Boston, Washington, you got the Islanders? Are there anybody? Are you guys scared of those teams, or how are you feeling against those guys?
Other than Boston, no. I think they're the only team I don't want to play right now.
Okay.
Right now, Boston is going to be tough, and we don't know if we're going to play them yet. The Islanders are going to be tough no matter what. No matter who we play, you're going to have to go through 2 of 3 of these teams if you want to win a Stanley Cup. It's not going to be an easy road. Yeah. If I look outside of the East, though, Carolina and Tampa are 2 teams that play a similar style to Pittsburgh, but they're younger and they have a lot more of a high-flying attitude than the Penguins have. Although the Penguins have scored the most goals in the NHL, it just seems like those other teams have it in spades, whereas if we have a line that is off for a night, that could be the end-all, be-all. But those teams seem like they have it even on their 6th and 7th lines at this point.
You're right. Even when it comes to Tampa, Vasilevsky in the net, that's, it's huge. He's a Vezina winner. And like you said, they're both deep. I'm not sure about Carolina's goaltending. I still think Pittsburgh can eliminate them, but Tampa would be the team. I back when the season started, I'd pick Tampa to go to the Stanley Cup Finals against Vegas. So we'll see how the divisions work out and the seeding once you get out of your division.
I mean, as of right now, your pick is seeming pretty strong.
Yeah, the seeding seems strange. We'll just have to see how it goes. But what is your ideal or most entertaining Stanley Cup final situation?
I like the offense for sure. Definitely, I think Vegas is a team that I love to watch. Vegas, they're a little bit later, like 10 p.m., 10:30 nights starts, but they're a really fun team to watch. They, for an expansion team, like their top four lines are just incredible. Every time I'm like, this can't be an expansion team. And then they have Leonard and they have Fleury in net. Like, what else do you want? Either guy can win a game for you. It's insane. So I really like to watch Vegas. Nick, you said Carolina. They're a really fun team to watch. Young team, fast, a lot of scoring. What's going to be interesting? The Tampa-Florida series. Florida's come out of nowhere, right? I read an article the other day. Like Hornquist has been huge in the dressing room. He's brought that leadership. He's brought that swagger. Cups. That's always good to have. And then, we have Leaf Nation where I live, and God help us if they win the cup, because I won't be able to leave my house. Right.
Oh my
so, it's going to be really interesting going into the playoffs for the Penguins this year. It's, I think, high expectations, but like you guys are saying, like there's a few question marks.
Well, Christmas is always great, but I always think the Stanley Cup playoffs are the most wonderful time of the year, and is the most wonderful time to have you on for your first guest spot here on the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast. So, Nick, we thank you so much for giving us your time. What we'd like to do now is definitely let all of our listeners know where they can find you, where they can find the Pens and Pucks, and I know that you have a new project coming out as well. So just rap for a little bit. Just tell us what you have going on.
All right. So currently we have our podcast at Pens and Pucks, and we started that back in early March. And that's basically, we're discussing Penguin hockey and news around the NHL. Currently we're going to be starting a new podcast. It's going to be called the Hockey Lounge. And the Hockey Lounge is just going to be a casual lounge where we're going to have guests on, friends. After the season, we're going to have some pro players, some trainers, coaches, just casual talk. You can bring a beverage to the lounge and just have some good old fun and some disagreements, fire talk, whatever it is. Just have some fun. But we also have an Instagram page, Pens and Pucks, as well as Hockey Lounge, just launched last night.
That's awesome. And do you want to share the socials as well so our listeners can give you a follow if they're not already following?
Yeah, for sure. So you can follow us at Pens and Pucks on Instagram as well as Twitter. And then right now with the Hockey Lounge, we have @_ the Hockey Lounge. And that's where you can follow the Hockey Lounge.
Awesome. Thank you one last time for joining us. We're definitely going to have to do this again. And let's hope that it's after a Pittsburgh Penguins Stanley Cup victory.
For sure, guys. Thank you very much.